Hey everybody, it's Mary. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new, my name is Mary Lynch. I'm going to try and get you through midlife and beyond and living this amazing life that's available for all of us. So stay tuned. Welcome everyone to another episode of Braving Midlife and Beyond discussions. This week we're joined by Stacey Inal, a career coach who is going to walk us through career endings and new beginnings. We've got a lot of questions that have come in, a lot of thoughts around this topic. So welcome everyone. I'm thrilled that you are here for career endings and new beginnings, because this is such a cool topic at this time, at this stage in our life. I'm over this. I'm done with this. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to do something different, or I'm being pushed out. Sometimes that happens at this time in our life, right? We get pushed out, or we just don't have the energy for what we want, that of what we're doing, or we don't have the passion. Like, it's like, I've done this now for the past how many ever years, and I want something new, but I don't know where to start, where to go, what about me can bring something different to the table. So Stacey, and for all of you, Stacey has created an amazing 18-page, yes, an 18-page workbook that Stacey has some great tips for us today. I've also got a bunch of questions that have come in throughout the week for Stacey. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to interrupt us, because this is, after all, at the end of the day, this is just a discussion. So, Stacey.
Good. I am so happy to be here. I'm excited about this topic. I am passionate about this topic. Mary and I have both lived this topic. And so it's very exciting to me. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I grew up in childhood trauma, and I wanted to show people that there was another side to that, because I found women that led me that direction, and it was really important. And I'm giving you this background because I think it's important that reinvention happens for different reasons for everybody. It's not always, the course isn't always straight, and it isn't always directed by things. It's just, we have a fork in the road and we get to make a choice. When we start to try to go after something new, whether it's reinventing ourselves or trying something new, a lot of times we get stuck, and then we don't know why we're getting stuck. And sometimes that's emotional stuff. Sometimes that's trauma. Sometimes that's, a million reasons. And so if we can identify that, then we can start working towards achieving your goal. So I was just curious, has anybody else sort of have had that route of where you started one place where you thought life was going, and then you ended up somewhere completely different?
Yeah.
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 Lorelei, go ahead. I know you have something to say about this.
You know how they say shadow or past trauma or whatever it is, whenever like I'm doing that and then end up somewhere else, I always somehow go back to when I was a young child, like I was 10 or 11. And I thought, God, what was that I need to relearn or let go or whatever? And I don't know. I guess if you can kind of let go of that, then you can go forward, but I don't know.
There you go.
The other thing I have to say, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but I really feel, they say you manifest or whatever. I really think that God has a plan. And even if you want this plan, sometimes he'll give you a better plan, but it doesn't look like the first plan. But I don't think you get that until you get older,
I said to my daughter, who's 45, we were having a discussion about she was going through a leadership program at work, and she wanted to talk to me about it. And she said, Mom, you're really showing me what it looks like to be vulnerable. And I said, oh, welcome to 60. Because that's when you get to feel okay with yourself, so that you can do that. So I think there's some truth to what you have to say, Lorelei. Terry, did you have something that you wanted to say?
No, I'm just raising my hand that it's happened to me over and over. Just as you know, the reason I'm here is that I achieved the goals I had set. Now what? And as you know, and so it just happens over and over.
Yeah.
So, we don't have one purpose, get to it, and then that's the end of the story.
No, right? Because what, you're 74, Terry?
Correct. Yes.
You're right. You're 74. Kirsten's in her 50s. Gloria, you still in your 40s?
57.
Are you 57?
Wow.
I never would have thought that. Seriously.
I wouldn't either.
Whoa. At Kira, where are you at?
59.
50. Wow. Oh, so you got the big 6-0 coming up. Oh,
Wow.
so that's
all right. I
like,
need
that's
everybody's moisturizing tips here.
All right, that's so there you go, Stacey. So there's different, right? There's different stuff, and what is it that, so here, let me say this. So I'm at a crossroads, right? Where each of us, for different reasons, at different ages in our life, are at a crossroads, or maybe we see or feel that there's a change coming. How do we take that energy and create something out of it?
Yeah. And just, I'm in my 50s. We didn't say that, but I'm also in my 50s. I think that's a great question. And I think what often happens is a pain or an uncomfortableness comes through. Something comes through that forces the shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the very first places I often have my clients start with is just write. And so in the handout that you will receive, it's like a 28-day workshop journal on exploration and seeing what you want and what you really would like for the next step. But one of the very first steps for me is kind of, if there was nothing to inhibit you, nothing to prevent you from getting what you want, what would that be? What would that look like for the next step? And then the second part to that is always, what do you not want to carry forward with you? That is so critical. And I often say, include your biases, include your prejudices. Listen, we all have them. We all have experiences from being around different companies. For me, I don't want to be around the old, bald, know-it-all man anymore. I just don't. That's not my genre. I appreciate them. I appreciate them if they're married to my client that comes through. But I don't want to work under that person anymore. And so it's really good to identify, I know what my hours I want. I know what, and then the third part is, what do you want in your personal life? What do you want that to look like? Because that's where that balance comes into play. Because at the beginning, when you're making that shift, it is a heck of a lot of energy. Mary has been helping me myself with just sort of that, what do I want next? Because I got to a place of being comfortable and uncomfortable, if that makes sense. So the job was getting to where I had a lot of clients, good income coming in, very happy, but I kept thinking there's something more. There's something next to this. And so really, and then I thought, and also I was working nights and weekends to make that happen. And I don't want that anymore. I have a teenager who's going to be going to college soon. I want to be spending time with her. I want family time. I want self-care time. I want downtime. So what does personal life mean to you?
Stacey, let me chime in here. I think that what Stacey has to the essence of what came through for me is that even if we're constantly evolving. Mm-hmm. So Stacey has a beautiful practice, a beautiful coaching practice, and but it doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to look forever. So you don't think that just because you're walking down one path that something else might open up. There might be something else in that fork of the road where you can take your experiences, your something that excites you, something that you're interested in, and move over into that. And I think, Stacey, that's what your workbook helps people to do, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's not necessarily about ending what you have. It's maybe just changing direction or getting more clear. You know, we talk about the funnel in sales and things, and we talk about the funnel narrowing. And that's sort of what we're talking about here, is just having better clarity. So you really getting to like have a fine needle just hitting that spot, because now you know your sweet spot. You know, when you wake up in the morning, what motivates you, what excites you, how do you feel when you are doing what you're doing. Really having insight, that developing insight is key, because you can say, this is tiring to me, this really refreshed me, this made me just so bored, and this made me, I want to go Google it and understand more about it.
Mm-hmm. I think that oftentimes as women, because we're constantly in the nurturing mode of for somebody or something, that we often don't take the time to do exactly what you're saying. And I think that is it just provides us with an honest snapshot. And I also think too that in doing a workbook like Stacey's, is if you do it by yourself, then you get to hear your own voice and not the voice of what somebody else has planned for you, your spouse, your parents, your family, the people around you. You get to walk this path yourself. You don't have to show it to anybody. You can really like like do it do it in secret. Like this is for you only. You get to put it in your special place until you're ready to start uh, exploring this new side of you out loud. So I think that the workbook that Stacey's put together is rich enough for you to be able to investigate stuff that maybe you haven't told anybody before. Like, don't you think, Stacey, that there's stuff like that we all have?
What I hear from my clients often is guilt and shame. Guilt and shame just come through all of the time.
Who else has guilt and shame?
Oh no, never heard about that. Oh no. Real.
Yeah. And so we put other people's needs first. We put other people's feelings first. We put even maybe an old teacher who said something, or somebody back here, and their voice comes through. It's just, and it's awful. And it is true. It's like, if you can be quiet, and it's hard, but the other part is like just really carving out time for this. I think in the workbook, it's carving out 15 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day. And we say that and it sounds so casual, but we're busy. I don't care where we are in our life, whether in retirement or working or family or whatever, we're busy. But carving 10 minutes out a day is so critical. It's sort of that, it adds to that self-care. I was curious what, if anybody has any questions yet.
Yeah, or just an observation maybe, because I think there's a lot of women out there, or I also know from my personal, or my own background, and then, talking to friends, that how do you actually come up with a new idea? You feel that you have itchy boots and you don't know where to go. You just don't have that insight. You don't have that passion. You don't have that dream. And so when you all of a sudden, you have, something needs to change, but you don't know what needs to change. Maybe the partnership needs to change, maybe the job, maybe the city, maybe everything at the same time. So I think it can be really unsettling, sort of, if you just let go and think, you want to quit your job and you don't know what you're doing next. So I think from my personal experience, I've gone through this process for quite a number of years now, but I think looking back is that I didn't know when I took sabbatical, I just said, just take a break. I don't know what's going to happen. And then it was like a step-by-step procedure from, all of a sudden I discovered different interest. Like I did a coaching and I thought, oh, I'm going to become a coach now, maybe on a motorbike or maybe not. And then I discovered writing and I wanted to become a writer. And then so one thing led to another. And so slowly this picture is shaping up. So I'm trying to say is that, you may not head off with a sort of clear vision, but by trying stuff out and just see where you feel comfortable and what really sort of sparks your passion if you don't have one yet. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I think Kirsten said it so well, that you don't necessarily start at the point your destination is. You take a lot of roads, a lot of forks in order to get to that spot. And the most important thing is having accountability. So figuring out how to have accountability in your life, because if you have somebody or some tool to help you sort of stay on track, that is what is going to keep you motivated. Yeah.
Movement. I think movement is key. Yeah. And it doesn't matter the size of the movement. I don't have to accomplish something huge in a day, but I do have to create movement so that I have proof that this is a worthy goal and that I'm still passionate about it. I think a lot of times we make shit up that I'm going to do this, I'm going to become this, but we keep it to ourselves. We don't tell anybody. So we get to let ourselves down all day long because nobody knows about it. Or we start out on it and trip and fail. And then we throw in the towel. And having that accountability piece allows you to it's not always pleasant having somebody watching you. It's not always pleasant having somebody say, hey, I thought you said that you were going to do this.
Write that book. Why is that book not done yet?
Right? Absolutely. It's not always pleasant, but right. But if you'll get to recognize that that piece of you, that passion that's there. Stacey, I have another question that came in that asks about how do I set a goal? So it looks like I'm in a career. I'm reading this, so sorry. I'm in a career. I want to get out of my career and move into something else. And I want to take my experience or skills with me, but I don't actually know what it's going to look like or what I'm actually moving toward. Is there something that you can suggest for this person to help guide them or get started?
Yeah, that one's Terry, I see you have your hand raised. This is a big one. That's a lot of questions in a question. The first question is why? Why do they want to move? And I think you have to dissect that. You have to write it down. You have to really formulate, why do I want to move? And the second question is there something in me that is not fitting in this present career? Is there something not fitting well in this current place I'm in life? Those are important questions, because it could be that you're unhappy because you think everybody around you is wrong or something. And if that's the case, you need to go see a therapist. If you see there's some problems at work and nobody's listening to you and you're really uncomfortable, identify what those are. And if you've made up your mind to get out of it and move to another place, then you go back to those things that I talked about, which is really starting to sit down. Who do I want to work with? Who do I not want to work with? Where do I want to go? I had a client, a coaching client recently, and we were talking. It's hard when the client is the sole breadwinner in the house, right? Because
yes.
everybody is dependent on that income. Everybody needs that. The job, I have to sit back and I'm like, oh, that's, it sounds awful. But in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, run. But, you don't scare a client like that from the get-go. And I just said, okay, let's really investigate it. And so we spent a few weeks just investigating what's going on, reactivity. Is there some bias? Is there some triggering that's happening? And finally, it came down to, no, this work environment was so incredibly toxic. And we said, okay, so now we're going to go into financial planning. So you need to go home and you need to speak to your family and you need to set a budget. So that was the next thing. Really understand what your money, and that's so important for women. Understand what your finances are and what the minimum is that you can live on, or what is the monthly budget. But then we created that client went home, they had the discussion, and the partner stepped up, said, okay, I'm going to start looking for a different job now. So that motivated the partner. Now, that doesn't always happen. That was a very lucky result of that. But the partner said, okay, I'm seeing you're suffering. I don't like seeing you suffering. I'm going to help you. Then we set up, okay, so what's going to help fill that monetary amount you need to capture for monthly expenses? So we really process that together. Okay, well, currently has one consulting gig. Who can we identify for additional consulting gigs? Can you start communicating with them what your availability is? Lo and behold, everybody was like, we've been waiting for this day. And then the client made the mistake initially of charging too little. And I said, let's go over your worth. Let's look at what you have. And it isn't always job worth. If you are navigating life, volunteer, doing different things, your worth isn't directly tied into your compensation or your job title. So that's where that confidence kind of kicks in and starts building up. And I said, know your worth. You're not charging enough. So she went back and renegotiated the contract. She obtained 2 additional contracts. Salary overall fell down. However, I saw her recently. She looks like a new person. It was
happiness
crazy.
Level goes up. And quite frankly, over time, that will all change too, right?
And the person was having health issues as a result. So that's that somatic, that body-mind connection, because the amount of stress was leading to health issues. And unfortunately, as we age up, it connects more and more, right? The stress, the more stress we have as we age up, comes out as illness or different things. And so those, I think, maybe it's a long answer, but I hope that's helpful. And Terry, I wanted to go back to you because you had your hand raised.
Well, just some life experience that I would just share briefly about that. First of all, I heard you say that, like, first, why do you want to make the change? Like, I thought that was good, because if, like you said, if you think everybody's against you, you probably need therapy. Okay, like you said, if it's something that's more objective, then like maybe not let one person drive you away from a good company might be one thing you might observe. But if it's time to make a change, what worked for me, I did not leave to go to a different field, but I did not like the level that I was at, and I wanted to rise. And I simply divided my life into the part that I need to give to my current position without diluting it, and that part of my day went to that, whatever part needed to. And then a couple of nights a week, I took classes toward a professional designation that would help me rise. And I did get it. And I followed in my father's footsteps. He started as an assistant teller in a bank, and he was a senior vice president when he retired. And he took classes at night and rose. He didn't have a college degree. He took classes at night and got his college degree from tuition reimbursement. He was a farmer's son. So I kind of followed that and did that myself and rose and made a nice living doing it. So it takes patience, though. I mean, you have to, but if you study the situation and find where you get the most bang for your buck, like how much concentrated education can I get in the time that I have to do the most to advance me, either to a whole different career by getting some sort of professional designation or something within the one you're in to rise. I just wanted to share that, and it did work for me, and it worked for my dad.
Terry, I think that's great. I think that is a great notice, especially yet again, for women, because a lot of times, as I say all the time, because we're the nurturers, we're never in practice mode. We're never in I'm going to try this out mode, where if we stay open to the possibilities that are out there, we're more likely to even fumble into or stumble into something that speaks to us. Gloria, I really want to ask you some questions because I know that you're going through some changes. Sorry, hopefully this is okay. All right. But we've got Stacey here, so we might as well use her, right?
Yeah.
Because she's just brilliant. So I'll be the go-between here. So a little bit of background. I love Gloria. One of my favorite people because she's just authentic. Like she's just out there. But Gloria recently made a move from Arizona to Oregon. She has a love of gardening, plants, building that, getting her hands dirty, but she's very service oriented. Would you say, Gloria, that you're service oriented? And now she's on a journey. And Gloria, I don't know if you have any questions for Stacey, or if I can make some up, like where do you want to, like, what would be good for you to go with this?
Well,
sorry, I should have set you up for this, but it just
okay.
dawned on me.
It's okay. So just a quick background. I never knew what I wanted to do. I went to college because I wanted to get out of my house and do something. So I have a bachelor's degree in sociology because it was interesting to me, and sort of knowing that I was never going to actually use it. So I started waiting tables in college, and that turned out to be pretty lucrative for me over the years. And so I that's what I've always done. And now I don't want to do it anymore, but I don't know what else to do, and I never have. And so Mary and I did that. What was that?
The DISC assessment.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the answer came up that I was going to be a perfect real estate agent. And so that's sort of where I was headed anyway. So I got into real estate. I hated everything about it. I do not like technology. I don't have those skills. I don't know. And so now I'm looking for a job right now. And I really want to grow plants, which doesn't pay very well. But it's a good lifestyle. I like being outdoors. I love growing stuff. I started a business a long time ago with a partner that fell apart because of the partnership. It's not out of the question to do that again. But also in the past, I've owned my own home and I had my own yard that I could do what I wanted with. And now I'm renting. It's temporary, but with prices where they are right now and interest rates, I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I'm just like at a loss for like what to do. And then I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna like do what then? Go work for $16 an hour doing something stupid? Like that's not gonna last very long either.
It's fascinating. My background, I actually grew up in the restaurant industry. My parents had it. And from the time I finished high school, I was like, I worked there at age 8 I said, I'm never going to go into the restaurant industry. It's a hard industry. It's lucrative and it's hard. And it's hard on the body too.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I actually had a coaching client that was loved gardening and worked for Parks and Rec, but was wanting to do something more individualized. And so that's, I think, one of the key things first is really figuring out where your passions are. And so understanding what you like. And for everybody, it's something that's a little bit different. And for you, you really enjoyed, from what I'm hearing, was the plants, growing them, being outside. Is that correct? Yeah. And so then if I was coaching with you, I would say, okay, start looking for things, and it doesn't mean you're applying, but start looking for jobs or opportunities or things that are out there that are interesting. The second part I would say is start going and networking. So start talking to, if you're in a park and you see somebody working there, start talking to them. If you have a botanical garden near you and you can go in and volunteer for a couple of hours, it's a great way to lead to a job. If there's a cool nursery, start getting to know the people, ask them what people in the area are looking for, like really start being a detective for your life. Like, what do I want to do and how am I going to get there? And just have this, like, cool detective cap on. I don't think you need the pipe, but or anything, but go in and start asking questions and see, does this feel good to me, or is this something I don't like Parks and Rec is great, except it's city government, it's red tape, and so I know that Kirsten would hate that because it has that sort of red tape and it's mandated. And so, but for you, that may be something that you kind of enjoy, is that lots of structure, versus somebody else. And so you don't like the structure, so we've knocked that one out. Yeah. So kind of going through, and then the other part is getting into the plant groups online in your area, because there's a ton. I'm in all of them in my area. I'm like, oh my gosh, my roses, or whatever it is. But I started building connections through that. I actually just recently brought in somebody who worked at one of the biggest outdoor gardens here in Los Angeles area, who just happened to be, he gives apprenticeships, and his passion is just being out in nature. And he's like, and he even charged me for consulting. I loved it. He's 70 years old, and he said, I charge for consulting. I said, fabulous. It's going in and consulting with people. It's helping them structure what they're wanting. So I think for you, I would really urge you to start like exploring in your area, your region, if you're planning on staying in this area, what makes you feel excited and what do you not want? Who gives you energy? Who depletes?
So Stacey, talk to me, because what came up for me, I don't know if anybody else feels this way. What came up for me was fear.
Absolutely.
Right. What came up for me was I don't know how to do that. I'm a fake. They're going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing. How do you help people overcome that? Or is there something in that, like in this workbook, that you think will help us get through that? But what kind of words of wisdom can you share? Because she's right. She's moved to a new place, which sometimes in my case, moving to a new place where I didn't have any backstories and nobody knew me. So I actually got to make shit up about me. I mean, I didn't lie, but I didn't, nobody knew all, all the husbands and the, all that stuff. So I got to be like, I'm just married. Right. So Gloria she's in a place where she's just Gloria. And so how do you how can you advise somebody to make the first step, get over that fear or that imposter syndrome? And Gloria, I don't know if that came up for you, but it came up for me when she was saying that.
Of course. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so true, especially relocating. Because when I moved from Arizona, where we'd been for many years in a very happy neighborhood, everything was great, to an apartment in Los Angeles, it was really hard, and I didn't know anybody. And there is a lot of fear in there. And I think, Mary, you made a great point that I even need to recognize again, because it is really hard. And I remember even when I began my private practice, I had listened to everybody about how I should be and what I should be doing and da 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 da. And my clients weren't connecting with me. And I finally called a friend and I said, be real with me. What am I doing wrong? Or what can I do better? And luckily in that moment, my friend said, be yourself. People like you. Be yourself. And it seems so, again, so little, but it's so true, because if you can just kind of lean into what you like about yourself, and that can be hard too, because sometimes we're in a place where we don't like ourselves. Yeah, Kirsten.
Oh no,
yeah. And so sometimes we don't like who we are. Sometimes we feel really shitty. Sometimes we're having just a bad season in life. And that can be the hardest part. And so that goes into sort of identifying. I have this one handout. It's called identifying or getting your red cape. And so who is in your cape? What is in your cape to help you? And so is that friends? Is that family? Is that some people you know? Is there a mentor in there? And then what self-care are you giving yourself? Because when you're having to expend all of this energy, and it is nerve-wracking to go in and be like, hi, I'm Gloria. I'm new to the area. And guess what? I have some questions. That's a lot of energy. And so you're going to go home and you're going to feel really tired. Yeah. And so if you're giving yourself self-care, which is a big word right now, but self-care is as simple as going for a walk. It doesn't have to always include money things, but going for a walk, reading for an hour, watching a Netflix show, going to the grocery store and buying the one item you don't normally get because you're like, well, it's not on budget, or I shouldn't get it. Allowing yourself the item. Giving yourself some nurturing on the other side will help support that fear as you're moving out into this new place. But this is, my husband had he was invited to do a presentation to 60 CIOs. He's in technology. And he says, I can't do it. He told the person I can't do it. And the guy's like, of course you can do it. And my husband, he's like, no, I can't. I'm like, oh my God, you've been like in technology for 20 years. You could do this presentation. And then even this morning, he was like, I'm not like you. I can't speak. I said, just think of it as a fun opportunity. Because sometimes when we third party it, like when I put on the detective hat, maybe even put on a prop to help you, you're not necessarily you in that moment. You're somebody else. I said, everybody puts on their underwear. Everybody has, this. And then I said, have fun. Take some deep breaths. Go out there. I haven't heard back from him, so I'm hoping it went really well. But even my husband, who is a pretty secure man, who is, in a good position in life, in his job, and does really well, was scared to pieces about speaking to 60 strangers today. I would be too. I was nervous today coming on. What if I don't say the right thing? What if I don't answer it? What if we run out of time? What if I talk too fast? Absolutely.
Got it. Yes. And I love the suggestion that you have, or that you said, about that doing this stuff really takes a lot of energy. I think that that's a great notice, that we don't have to be putting ourselves out there and expect that I'm not going to have to come home and take a nap, for instance. Like I don't get to trash talk myself because I have to come home and take a nap after I just went out and did something that I've never done before. I think that's really, that it's really important to do that, notice it, and the big fact that you don't get to trash talk yourself because you needed to go rub your feet or something. Yes, Kirsten.
Yeah, Gloria, I think you're in a great position actually, because you don't know what you're going to do next, or you know that you want to do something different. And what I could only recommend you to start off with, just try open the Pandora box. Just try think outside the box and think really big of stuff that you may have heard of. Ideas that you have, as crazy as they may sound, and note them, put them all on a piece of paper. I started this big sheet years and years ago, and I still have it, and there's pretty much everything on it. That time, I had no idea where I'm going to go, how I'm going to do that. And when I look at this thing today, I've actually moved. I'm on my way to sort of, work step by step through what's on this piece of paper. But I allowed myself to, oh yeah, I want a documentary about women, blah, blah, blah. I want motorcycling. I want fashion. I want this. I want writing. I want maybe a podcast. Not everything has happened, but at that time when I did it, I just didn't limit myself. And maybe same as for me, your job doesn't exist yet. And maybe that's something that you have to create from scratch. And all I want you to do is allow yourself to do that, to have these thoughts. And create a garden that where people come and they want to learn from you rather than you learning from someone else, because you seem to have the experience, and you have your heart is in your garden with your plants, in nature. I mean, that it's by itself is something that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
Out of this, you can just create. I mean, I would have tons of ideas just coming top of my head, but that's your project, and so just open the box and see.
Kirsten, I love that. I love that you said your job might not actually exist, and that you that you get to create it.
That was rather exciting.
Yeah, mine doesn't exist, so I don't know.
Right? Kirsten is a perfect example of that. Like, she's just literally making it up as she goes, and she's aware enough. Hopefully you'll agree with me, Kirsten. If not, say so. But she's aware enough that when the stuff that she doesn't like to do comes up, or that she's pissed off about something, that she feels it. Like, she doesn't try and stuff it. And sometimes that's not pretty. It doesn't always have to be pretty.
No, it's not.
Right?
It's a journey. It's a journey. And there's always somebody you like. I'm not very good at asking for help, and I'm realizing this now. I should have done this, way back. Have somebody help me with the budget, with the business plan. I haven't even done that yet in all these years, but I'm realizing now that I did step 2, and before I did actually step number 1. So I have to now go back and basically bring everything into shape that I have. But again, that's my way. Everybody else may do it differently, and I'm doing step number 2 first, and now I'm going back to step number 1. So there's no right or wrong. It's just encouraging you to start creating, and it's once you do, I mean, you have no idea where you'll be in 3 years' time. You may be having your own blog about gardening, and or you're vlogging, or you have to do little videos or do exhibitions in who knows, in your garden. So and include not only what you want to do, but also where you want to live, and how your life's going to look like in general. And not everything may come at the right time, or like tomorrow. It takes a bit of time, but I'm sure when you start the process now, and then three years down the line, you look back, oh my God, it's quite a lot of things have happened. So just open yourself up to opportunities, and just new avenues.
I think Terry's been wanting to say something.
Terry,
here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to, before I have to leave. I have to leave in a few minutes for another Zoom. But I just wanted to say, Gloria, I heard you say that you wanted to make enough money to be able to own a house and possibly work with plants. So one of the part of my jobs over the years has been knowing the right keywords to find stuff. And on Indeed.com, 22 high-paying jobs that involve working with plants. Okay, there's an article on there. Yeah, 22 high-paying jobs that involve working with plants. Okay, that's on Indeed.com. So maybe you want to do something great from scratch, like has been talked about here, but maybe you want to get something steady to pay the bills for what you want, and do something like that as a sideline, so that you don't depend on it for money, at least while you're getting started. but it's a place to maybe find, steady work, that would do that. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's great. Thanks, Terry.
Awesome.
I think
Sure.
I think doing that side hustle thing is is something that can really help us transition into something. I remember one of the things that I had to do when I was first starting out was I parked cars at night at a restaurant. On the weekends, I parked cars, which was really cool because it was, like a Michelin starred restaurant. So I had got to test drive I called it test driving. I was out for a test drive. I didn't call it like it was a job. I was like, I'm going to go test drive some cars tonight. And, these guys would, these people would drive up in Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces and, all these fancy cars. And I got to drive them over to the parking lot. So, it was my side hustle until I got things going. So it was like, and then I got to, like pretend for that short period of time that I was, that this was my car. So, Lorelei, what did you have to say?
I can imagine, you're dressed up, probably have pants, and those long legs come out of that beautiful car, and you hand them the key or something. I don't know. I bet you that was a cool job.
It was.
Anyhow,
The tips
Gloria,
were great.
Said, put on the red cape. What's under the red cape? Terry, my dad, Italian Catholic, would say, if you don't like your job, can you move to another department, like build upon that company? And Kirsten said, free think, get your imagination going. So anyhow, I had an idea when Gloria first talked, is I think she should build. Like, I think she has a real estate license. And I think she likes that nurturing thing about plants. There's a lot of people like in Solvang, Santa Barbara, in Orange County that flip homes, but they stage them. So wouldn't that be cool if she could get with a real estate person and do their yard or their front yard or, inside plants or whatever. And I know those jobs are hard to get, but man, if she could get connected somehow and like build upon her. And the other thing that's very interesting about Gloria, and I use it in my field working in a hospital, is talking, personality. She worked in a restaurant. When you can connect, like yesterday, I walked in to a room at 6 a.m. and they said, watch out. He's a manipulator. He's hardcore, whatever. And man, within 5 minutes, he was saying, you're the best nurse I've ever had, And even after 12 hours, he said, thank you so much. You're the best. But like, the restaurant, personality connecting, the real estate, if she has whatever connection, and the plants. I think she needs to build. And like the one girl said, have that red cape, what's under your red cape. So.
Yeah, I like the red cape analogy.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
You can't see me, Mary, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can,
Yes.
Kira.
I'm sorry to jump in. I didn't have a way to raise my hand because I had to get in the car. I just wanted to tell Gloria, I did send something in the chat, and it kind of piggybacks on to what so many other people have been saying. If you can find something on a part-time basis to do, it gives you a chance to experiment, to play a little bit. We don't get to play anymore. Everything is so serious when we're trying to move forward. And to me, that just makes it all the more stressful, and your interest in the plants. 2 suggestions I had thought was to try growing, because you are renting, but this you could do in a smaller space. Try growing maybe some specialty plants that you could then sell, and also working with biophilia and living walls. Those things can be created in smaller spaces, and they could be sold or possibly used for staging in real estate spaces. These big empty apartments and homes, you could offer beautiful pieces, unique pieces for staging that you create. It lets you play in several fields at once, and that might be something that you could do. to get you closer to figuring out, maybe what you'd love to do?
Living walls over here are a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know a medical facility, for instance, a medical office here that does not have a living wall. And matter of fact, I was at an art opening the other day at a vodka museum, because I am in Poland, and they had a living wall in the art museum. So, just, Gloria, these are just some ideas. Of course, you need to do with it, whatever you need to do.
I'm gonna kick back real fast because I want to go back to that fear, because in fear, what we often have is that negative self-talk. Oh, I should have done that better. Why did I interrupt? Why did I do this? And so, of course, I have I work on the somatic side, so really that body side. And so something to do is sort of, and I'm not big into mantras. I know some people are really into mantras because for some people it really works well. And for them, I think that's great. But for some people, it can be a little bit triggering. But just saying, like, I did a good job there. And then this is called the butterfly technique, and you kind of tap it in. You're like, I did good enough. I tried my best. And so if you get back in the car and you feel like, oh my God, like I made a fool of myself, or why did I do that? I had to do it on a trip recently. Like I had a negative interaction, and it was so triggering. And it was literally as I was getting on a flight, and I ran to the bathroom, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm a good person. I'm good. And it just kind of was a really quick grounding technique. So keep those in mind too, it's that developing that insight. So it may be therapy, it may be a coach, it may be, different things that, like Kirsten said, but try to figure out, like, when it starts to come up, be aware of the emotion, and then how do you support it? And I'm not saying counter it. I'm not saying shut it down, because those are unhealthy. How do you support that emotion? I feel shame right now. How am I going to support that shame? I feel sad right now. How am I going to sit with the sadness and support the sadness and just let it move through? Because trying to stuff it down, we know this, ladies, trying to stuff it down or ignore it, it doesn't leave. It just goes and settles somewhere else. So developing that insight and just acknowledging we all feel this. I'm tired. I need a nap. It's okay. I need to call my friend, and I need to not talk about this and just have a laugh. I need to go out and have a good beer, whatever it is. But just developing that insight and being able to learn how to kind of sit with it. We all have these things come up. Every day we have these things come up.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. I have a great quote from Wayne Dyer that says, "You're not stuck where you are unless you decide to be."
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, right? Yeah, right? Ouch, right? Because it is a decision. Yeah. And I think the other piece to all of this change is me taking responsibility for me. And like Stacey just said, being okay when you trip up, being okay and recognizing that, but still working toward being in some kind of movement so that you don't end up in this mindset of being stuck with the blame and the shame. Mm-hmm. But that you can see that you are doing something somewhere along the line. So Stacey, I have one more question. Sorry, I'm going a little bit over here, but I have one more question for you. So I have a question here about retirement. I think for for me at my age, maybe Lorelai, you and I are the same age. So I don't have like those role models. Okay, Kira, thank you. I don't have those role models. How can I be okay with forging my own path?
And so I'm going to reframe this. And this is a great thing for everybody here. It's a great tool. So when you're not fully clear on it, or you don't want to make an assumption here, like I don't want to assume what Mary's saying. So Mary, what are you talking about? Are you talking about forging forward and no longer working and what life looks like after that, or making a decision financially to retire, or what's kind of behind that question?
So I feel like when especially even, like even the clients that I have, they're like, I know there's more to me. I'm retiring now and I know there's more to me. Mm-hmm. But I don't have somebody's footsteps to follow in. I know that I have skills because I have this life of working, and I like to do things through and with people. So I want to do something with people, but I don't have anybody that I can look at and go, I want to do, that's the way that I want to, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. So I think, again, one of the best things to do is sort of go into what you like, what gives you energy. I keep going to this, but it's so important and it's so basic, and we don't do it. We don't go into and really understand, like, oh, after this event, I just felt like I could run a marathon. Like sometimes we'll come home, or I'll come home from an event, and I'll be like, and then other times I'm like, I need an hour. I need to be quiet. So recognizing that first, and then starting to just explore, because that's the great part about retirement, right? Is now you have the ability to have time, which most of us don't have until retirement, which is time, and then hopefully resources, financial resources to at least get us month to month, and starting to investigate what did we enjoy in our lives. There's even, in psychotherapy, there's the Erickson theory, and you go into the 5 stages of life. And when you get close to retirement, which is usually 65, 70 something, you look back and you start reflecting on life. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? Who do I want in my life going forward? Who do I want to spend more time with? What do I want? So kind of, again, going into these questions about yourself, and then look in the community and see who is doing something you admire, who is doing something you like. Really, and again, try to investigate it. Try to find out what is next, because, like we adopted a cat 2 weeks ago. It was crazy. In Los Angeles, it's not like elsewhere. You go in, probably New York is like this. We had to pre-register. Then when we got there, we had to register. And then when we got there, we had to get on the cat waiting list. And then we sat for an hour with the cat volunteers. They were all retired. And they were so fun, and they were going on about how they love cats their whole lives, and and we want a cat, and now I can have time and I get to meet people, and that would be hell for me. I would not want to sit with people like trying to figure out, and then they have to patiently wait while the person pokes a cat, and I don't like that cat, and I like this cat, and I'd be so like, just take the cat. I don't have patience. But for them, they loved it. Like there's like one eye, one leg cat, and they're like, oh, isn't it beautiful? Look at Wobbly, he's great. And I'm like, no, Wobbly's not so great, but great for you that you love that cat that much. So it's kind of going into those areas around you, like going into the community, looking at places, and really finding out what gives you this spark. I still say, even for Gloria, it's like going out and finding out what sparks, what excites you. And I love the idea that was given before of trying to marry your experiences. Listen, if you can be in service, in restaurant service, for how many years you've been in it, you know how to navigate people. That's a strength. in my book, and difficult people, because people can be real a-holes when it comes to restaurants. And you've been able to navigate that and financially take care of yourself through that. How do you transfer that skill set to something else? So it's the same thing in retirement. What skill sets have you had that have made you successful, have made you happy, have made you feel connected? How do you transfer that out into retirement so that you can keep those relationships going? We are built on relationships. Those that sit home and are sedentary, we see what happens. We see what happens physically. We see what happens mentally. I have a father who's 80 years old, 80 some years old. He's still doing mounted shooting on horseback riding events, barrel racing with guns, shooting balloons. 83 years old. And he travels across states with his wife. On the flip side, I have my mother who's getting knee replacement surgery, and it's had hip replacement surgery. My father is well connected. He has really, in retirement, grounded himself into his community. He even ran for office. We were dying laughing. We're like, okay, but didn't make it. But he tried for it. But it was wonderful. How wonderful. They have people in their home. They have events going on. They have found what they like. They have found community. And so, again, for Gloria and Kirsten, it's finding community. It's finding people. Maybe you even create a group on Facebook or something. Hey, I'm living in Germany and I'm exploring what my next options are. Like, I follow a lot of the German groups, like the expat group and a couple of groups, and people are talking about these things. Create a group, create something, and then you're going to meet people, and then you're going to be supported, and then you're going to have that red cape. That's more to add to that red cape. It's going to be on top of you, and that's going to help you lift up and go.
Awesome. Awesome. Stacey, so how can people get a hold of you?
Yes. So I'm actually in the process. I have a website, but it's really psychotherapy driven, and I'm going into more coaching. So for right now though, I'll give it's my name. You can it's just staceyinal.com. And then I just have Gmail. So again, it's very easy. staceyinal@gmail.com. And I'm on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, I'm starting these new series, and I'm doing every couple of days, I'm going to be doing a series on a different topic. So last week was on grief, and it's at Stacey. I think it's at Stacey Inal _women's therapy. That's my Instagram one. And then I'm on Facebook too, under Stacey Inal for that. And this week I'm going to be doing one on making assumptions and how that's just really, really bad thing to happen and do. So yeah, so those damn assumptions, they get us sometimes. So anyway, yeah.
Well, Stacey, thanks for being here. And when in the email that goes out with the recording, I will put a link to Stacey's workbook. She put a lot of work into it. It's really, like I told her, like it's a course in itself. So take advantage of it, because and take your time. This is not a race.
Yeah, this is something it's slow. It's slow. And so even if you don't map it out in 28 days, like I suggest, but if you can stay consistent with it, like even Kirsten, like having her paper follow her, it's so helpful, and it's an accountability tool. And really quickly, I'll just end with, at the beginning of this year, I had worked a lot of hours, a lot of different types of jobs I'd taken on, doing some consulting work. I went and did some speaking work, different things. And I really thought, oh, these are things that I like, and these are things I don't like. And I thought, how am I going to, and then it was all swirling in my head. So like right now, we've talked about a lot of things that it might be swirling in your head. And I had the fortune, I took 5 weeks off this summer. I flew out of overseas. I went hiking. I ate tons of kebab. I did toury stuff. I did resting stuff. But I took 5 weeks off, and I was scared to death. Oh my gosh, I'm going to probably lose half my clients. They're not going to stay with me, or because the attrition rate usually is about 25%, 25%. It's just typical in the industry when you step away. And I took the 5 weeks and I really went inward. And what came out of it for me was I need to deal with some health stuff. I have some health stuff that's been sitting with me and I haven't been addressing it. And I've been putting it off. And now I've really got to attend to it. And this is what I really want for my business to help support that. And I came home. I was so motivated. I called my doctor. I talked to our retirement planner. I talked to Mary, who's my coach and supporting kind of what I want for the next part of my job. I went to a wellness program. I'm meeting every Friday, and I was so resistant. I hate this stuff. But I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to force myself. I could probably teach that class. But I went, and I actually found community. I loved it. Who knew? I loved it. And then one person that I talked to didn't fit. And I was like, okay, that's not the right person. And I redirected. Now I'm going to be working with somebody who specializes in my autoimmune stuff and is going to be working therapy and some practical tools to help me deal with that. So I'm giving this to you at the end is take time for yourself to go inward if you can. Really reflect on what it is you want. Really reflect on what has given you joy in life. That's just making that funnel smaller. It doesn't mean all the answers are right there, but what it does is it starts taking out the choice, the chatter and the noise. Okay.
Amen.
Amen.
That was great. So listen, throughout the week, if anything else comes up, don't hesitate to either email Stacey, email me. Once this goes up on YouTube, if you have a comment on the YouTube channel, then you're welcome to put something there. Don't sit with stuff. That's not what these discussions are about. This is never one and done. So don't hesitate to reach out. We are here for you. That's why I bring people like Stacey, or Kirsten was on with us a few days ago. That's why I bring these people here so that we can help one another to get to where we want to go. That's what this is all about, women helping women. Being authentic and being true to yourself, Stacey, I think that that's the main message that I kept hearing from you. And, taking time for yourself, digging deep. We got to dig deep. We got to dig deep. Now's the time. So thanks everyone for showing up. Thank you, Stacey. And we'll see you again next week. Oh, next week is September. So September 5th, I'm going to be joined by Lori Howard, who plans trips through Provence. So she's an American that went to Provence, fell in love, and decided to host retreats in Provence. So she's going to join us next week and talk about the passion, like being led by that passion and that joy that Stacey was talking about, just letting that guide her. She didn't know how to do this. She didn't know how to bring women together. She didn't know how to create a week-long retreat. It was just something that she started connecting with her community and found other people in her community and other businesses that could help her. So you can cook, you can taste wines, you can go pick some lavender, you can make soap. Like there's all different kinds of things that Lori allowed her community to chime in and build this business with her. So she's going to talk about her experience. So I'm excited about that. That's it. We'll see you again next week. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Ciao for now. Thanks for showing up, everybody. I appreciate you being here. We'll see you again. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you.